The Morning Drive is sponsored by Power Metallic. To find out more about the company, please visit their website at powermetallic.com. Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.
Terry Lynch.
Karl, great to see you.
We're in the Power Nickel Cybertruck.
Indeed we are.
Thanks for being our title sponsor. Really appreciate it.
Well, it was a unique idea. Good for you to think of it, and good fit for us, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? It's one thing to pitch an issuer, but Power Nickel has always been a company that we've been big fans of. We know how important management is, and you're the lead guy over there, so we got a lot of trust in you, and you've done a great job with the company, sir.
Yeah, we've had a great team, honestly. And then obviously the drill bit makes dummies look like geniuses, and geniuses look like dummies. So we're looking smart, but. Yeah, it's worked out really well for us.
Well, humble as usual. So this morning drive, we're going to be talking about just a whole bunch of random things because Terry's pretty well versed, probably the most traveled guy I know. But if you, so we'll be having a webinar with Terry in the next few weeks. Go in the description and add it to your calendar. Check out the date, and kindly do that now if you can. So, there was a plane that crashed yesterday, right? And honestly, I'm not lying. Like, I don't know anyone who spends as much time on an airplane as you, Terry. I was just on the way over here, I was thinking, no one passed away. It doesn't seem like there's any serious injuries.
God, eh?
God.
God.
It's like a miracle.
Yeah, I watched the landing. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw it today.
It looked like it came in hot or something, right? I don't know.
The plane didn't look like it was. It didn't look like it was straight. But that video that's circulating right now isn't the best. The angle's not the best.
No.
But boy, I thank
yeah,
God.
it makes you wonder. It makes you think. You have to say a silent prayer every time you go up in one of those things. But generally, historically, we know that it's safer than driving in the car.
Yeah,
so,
that's what puts me at ease.
I don't think about it too much. I guess I sort of believe it's in fate, and if you're destined to go, you're destined to go.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, what do you have any stories of like extreme turbulence or anything?
Yeah, I remember once we were going to Dallas Fort Worth, and that's a very nasty airport. From a wind shear perspective. Okay. And they've lost a couple of planes there, and we were in a one of those Bombardier, four-seaters. It was not a huge plane, but a decent size, like maybe 60 seats or something. And man, it must have dropped 1,000 meters, and I thought we were going down.
Really?
I was with another guy, and we were lucky we had. I always keep buckled when I'm flying. For reasons like that. Yeah. And thankfully, one guy banged his head. I think he got, fairly
concussed.
Hurt. Yeah. Thankfully, just been lucky to avoid it. Had some horrific travel delays and got unbelievable, 48 hours in the airport and that type of crap. But I think that a lot of people have experienced that. Unfortunately, travel. Used to be fun. It's not a lot of fun anymore.
And you travel a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll get into the exciting stuff of tariffs. Why don't we just go into Trump and tariffs? And I'm a Trump guy. Actually, I like Trump. I don't like everything about Trump. Yep. But I like a lot of the social changes that he's bringing to the world currently. Yep. But he's threatening all these tariffs, and it's his negotiating. It's his kind of style of negotiating. You've got a Canadian listed company. What's your personal take, and then what's your take on sort of how it might affect Power Nickel? So my take on the effect of Power Nickel first is minimal to none. The reality is, we were, like 4 or 5 years away from production. So whatever implication that tariffs have on markets and companies will have been well thought out by then or resolved. So I don't think there's any
for us, it's just an exploration and development story at the moment. So I don't think it's got any impact on us at all. I guess to the extent it creates market uncertainty, and maybe there's something there. But I think we're lucky in that this discovery is so amazing that it's just sort of going to stand above the noise, and we're just blessed. On the tariffs, I'm like you, sort of I was in favor of Trump, and I'm a big fan of his team. I think they've got an amazing team, and I like what Robert Kennedy's going to do for our health, I think, because the American health feeds back into Canada, as you know. And I think Doge is needed everywhere, and it's great that Elon is doing that, for the...
Do you think the gold's in Fort Knox? What do you think?
Boy, that's a great question. I would not bet my life on it,
The price of gold would go up pretty significantly, like as soon as they announce if it wasn't there, or
I think obviously it would, but it also would be damaging to the gold market in some respects too, if you think about it, because it's like the confidence of the world has been built on this reserve, and if it's not there, what does it say about the veracity of gold? It's like it's not as immutable as or it's not as trackable as, say, Bitcoin. So there's some interesting complications with that. I hope for gold's sake that it's actually there, because then I think the move is, if it's there, they're going to definitely remonetize it.
It's sound money.
It's sound money. Yeah. So, and I think they're doing. I see there's a tremendous gold delivery problem right now, and I think they're, who knows who's scrambling to get the gold.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but we'll soon find out if they can do that. I think on the tariffs.
Yeah. Sorry, I digress.
My general take is there's a broader issue, right? And the broader issue is I think America has woken up to the fact, from their perspective, that they've been a bit of a doormat. That they've that while they have got hegemony in some areas, they've got the U.S. dollar, they've got the biggest armed forces in the world. Generally speaking, people have been able to import or export products into America with a lot more freedom than vice versa.
Right.
Even Canada. And I think America and Americans have for the while they were doing so well, that was okay, and now they're not doing so well. So now they're looking at saying, hey, this is not fair. We've carried the ball for a long time, and now we don't want to carry the ball anymore. We need to look after our own citizens, and you can't blame them for that.
No.
And it's like the reality. Listen, I don't want Canada to be the 51st state. I'm quite happy that we're an independent country, and hope to God we can stay that way. Have we been horribly mismanaged for not just Trudeau's period, which is, I think anybody would have no problem, but for many years? We've not done a lot of common sense things. Like, we've underinvested in our defense, and now, of course, we're having issues. We didn't have pipelines coast to coast, and now we're having issues. So it's like, hey, Canada needed a wake-up call. Should have happened long before this. A capital markets that I crusade on is definitely part of it. So we need to wake the hell up. And yeah, I mean, as a Canadian, you sort of, it's like the 51st state thing pisses you off.
Yeah.
What I mean? But that, when you get over that, the rattle that he's done is actually to wake the Canada up to say, hey, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to, and it's like, who are you going to be partners with in this world? Because we're a small country, a medium-sized country, and it's like, the world is developing blocks, and the Chinese have their approach to society, and we've got ours, and I think we're a more freer society, and I certainly, for me and my family, I want to live in a free society.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not, other people have different approaches. And culturally, that's, they're okay with that. God bless. I'm not here to tell China what to do, but I would prefer a more free society, which is what we used to be. We're losing a lot of freedoms. And I
especially
look
over the last 10 years.
Oh my God!
5 years.
Yeah, and I look at the States. I'm thinking they're trying to take it back. And I'm an endorser of that. So yeah, so I guess that's a long-winded answer to say I'm a as frustrated as anybody would be on the 51st state stuff, but it's also a wake-up call to say, hey, Canada, stand up for our own. Like, we should be having a much more vibrant defense, that we don't live up to our NATO commitments on that, which we clearly need to do. We should be having our coastlines coast to coast. Our northern territory should have been populated. We should have been more creative. Like, why is there not a free trade zone in the Yukon, the Northwest Territories, and Iqaluit, so that we could have, maybe you go up there, you don't pay taxes.
Right,
okay.
because
Like,
more of an incentive to go up there and live.
100%. Like, let's get creative here, and help those areas, and that would be very good for our national defense. So, there's it's easy to sort of, and this is what frustrates me with the current set of politicians we have. They're reacting to they're just reacting to Trump and saying, I was horrified to see us booing the Americans at the hockey game. It's like, my God, are we that stupid?
Well, where were you when the trucking thing was going on?
Yeah, well, I was a huge fan of the trucking thing, and I think our convoy changed the world in terms of the COVID. That's what Canada stands for. That's the Canadian courage.
Yeah.
I was watching.
Well, and Trump, I don't mean to cut you off,
Yep.
but Trump, I remember, he wasn't in office at that point. He had just left, or
Yep.
a year or so after, and he went on Twitter and he was advocating for what the Canadians were doing. I'm pretty certain of that.
Listen, he recognizes. Steve Bannon had a good interview, and arguably in World War I and II, Canadians lost more people per capita than anyone else in the world.
Yeah.
Nobody can deny Canadian courage. You only have to see it in hockey. Where this is a game that's a tough physical game. We're one of the best in the world at it. Most times we're at the best. But I think we need to get back to our fighting spirit.
Right.
And
like that good old hockey game that just happened.
Yeah, and maybe this is the wake up call we needed.
Yeah, well, you said a lot of stuff there. We can digress on, but leadership being reactive.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. These are our leaders, and you're being reactive.
Yep.
Right? Like, how about take some constructive criticism and maybe, don't react and say, actually, I'm not going to react to this. I need to put some thought into it. That's good leadership in itself.
100%.
Sometimes it's not. You don't need to just go out with a press conference and say a whole bunch of stuff that maybe doesn't make any sense. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You deal a lot with the province of Quebec.
Yep.
Right? Last thing you want to do is piss them off. But I'm just wondering what your take is. Like, because clearly we need to have our own pipelines going north, south, east, west. And I saw this coming out, obviously within the last month or so, when we talk about trade and tariffs, people are like, well, we need to have our own pipeline going east-west. And then Quebec comes out, the Bloc, and says, no, we block that. Now, are they just, in your opinion, because I feel like the Bloc knows they'll never be a prime minister, like they're never going to be leading the country. So they just kind of fight for their own, whatever they can get for themselves. That could be a very uneducated opinion, so let me know in the comments below if that's stupid or not. But what's your take? Like, are they just saying something like that to try to negotiate and get something that they would want? Or
listen, I don't really know their positions in depth, so I couldn't really comment, but my general sense is that Quebec ultimately wants and needs to be competitive, and they've done a very good job, probably the best job of anybody in North America, of having a plan on being competitive. You look at the infrastructure they developed, and their policies with the First Nation. They've done a lot of really smart things. So what they might say politically for vote gathering is one thing. What they're doing strategically is another thing. So
it's kind of like Trump.
Yeah, and I think, listen, the East-West pipeline, it's clear that we need that as a nation, and Quebec ultimately will get on board because they need it too, and this is where nation builders as prime ministers need to, and that's why I really am critical of Harper. Harper was given the mandate to do this.
Yeah,
it didn't happen. He had the majority. He could have made it happen. There's a notwithstanding clause, and it sometimes you have to be firm and say, hey, look, understand you got some issues. We don't believe at the end that it overweighs the preponderance of the need of the entire country and ultimately of your own, and so we're going forward. That's what he should have done. The fact that he didn't is is on him really, and that's why. Listen, I've never had high hopes for Trudeau, and I wasn't unfortunately surprised by their performance. But Harper, I had high hopes for, and he was a good man and done a lot of good things. But that not getting the coastlines coast to coast, that's on him.
Okay, fair enough. You're probably a conservative, so
I am a conservative. Yeah.
Do you think that Trump had a lot to do with Trudeau stepping down or doing what he did?
No, not really. I mean, he was. Don't you think he was done? I mean, I think he's done such a bad job of running the country, and and the Liberals. You listen. I grew up a Liberal when Liberals were actually conservative fiscally and liberal socially.
Yeah.
And I feel like
we would take that now.
Yeah, we'd take that now. And I think that's where the Conservatives have moved to, and the Liberals have moved like left to the NDP. I mean, it's crazy some of their stuff that they do, and the waste, and my God, the whole transgender stuff, the wokeism, the DEI. I mean, it's like just not common sense.
Yeah.
And I think we got to get back to basics, right? Back to hard work, savings, investment, reading, writing, arithmetic. I mean, it's stuff that we grew up on, and the extent that we don't get back to that, we're going to be the losers, and our kids will be the losers, and our grandkids will be the losers, and that's really, this is not fair. We need to do better for our society.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just ask you while we're on it, what do you think of this Carney guy?
I'm not a fan.
Didn't expect it.
You know what? I mean, listen, obviously he's a smart guy, but he's been a globalist his entire life. He's made an absolute fortune being a globalist, so there's no reason to believe he won't be a globalist, and he's a leftist globalist. And I think it's clear to me that the deep state are globalists. They're basically for the elite and the bureaucracy that's become entrenched, but the actual rank and file, the ordinary people, even entrepreneurs, they're not for us. They've got their own agendas, and I suspect he'll become our prime minister.
You think so?
Well, for a period of time.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, the interim.
So we'll, but I mean, the scary part is the Liberals. I'll tell you one thing: you can criticize them, and I do, but they are hellish good politicians. They dropped the dead horse in Trudeau, and they're moving to the best horse they got in Carney, probably. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Trump thing may play in their favor, and because
because Canada is uniting in this way.
Yeah, and it's like I don't think Poilievre, who I think generally is a good guy, and I like his policies a lot. I don't think he's articulated his vision, and he needs to. And I hope that gets out there soonish, because God, a concept of another Liberal government here is just appalling. But it could easily happen, and I hope it doesn't. But it's a scary thought.
Yeah, I try not to manifest that thought.
Yeah,
it's just not good.
I hear you.
For my kids, well, for me too. But,
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Power Nickel. I mean, look, I just left VRIC not too long ago, and like Power Nickel is just stealing the show. Like, it literally is stealing the show. So you've done an amazing job, and I guess we should highlight. I interview a lot of executives, right? And they're afraid to talk about the things that you are not afraid to talk about. And here you are with this relatively, so far, successful company. You've delivered on what you've said you're going to do, quarter on quarter on quarter, and you give us these opinions. So thank you very much for being a leader. But let's talk a little bit about Power Nickel. Obviously we've told people to come into the webinar. A couple of things that you want to talk about today. You had a development. You want to talk about that?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, obviously we announced an upsizing today in our recent financing, so we're going to ultimately close on around $50 million or so, $40 million flow, and $10 million hard. So that'll really set us up, capital-wise, to be able to execute our growth plans for NISC and for the Lion Zone and the Tiger Zone and what other zones we might find. So we're really happy about that. We think that it's always a dance between taking money and not taking money at the right times, but we think that it was a good measured approach and puts us firmly into the growth mode of growing from 3 rigs to probably 5, and really seeing how big this thing is going to be. So we're super stoked about that, and you know, that's a big development for us, and we feel like, I think it was instructive in that obviously this was an institutional round, and why did institutions give us the biggest check we've ever had? I think they felt that, and we made the case that relative to our peers, we were trading at 30-40 cents on the dollar, and we had tremendous upside beyond. This is what we were at today, and we got all sorts of what I call asymmetric upside on the expiration. So I think that's why we got that vote of confidence, is that they believed that, and I believe that, and I think once we close this, I think it rockets again.
I was just going to ask you as a follow-up,
Yeah.
because when your stock starts taking off, obviously you need to capitalize on that. You need to raise money.
Yep.
And it did that. Very strategic, Terry. You just nailed those shorts on your stock, power through $1. I don't know if you hit $1 or you hit one. What did you hit, $2? Or?
No, it didn't hit. It was like 190.
Really close.
Something close. Yeah, very close. Yeah.
So that's you knew what you were doing there. Like, in my opinion, you knew what you were doing. You get up there and then you finance.
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah. We basically.
It's a good strategy, Terry.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. No, we had a vision that we knew we had a lot of great news. We knew that ultimately within 6 months we'd need to finance. So it's like you always want to try and do it when they're not really looking. So we felt that was a good move, and we got really some great institutions in, and obviously got the support of Robert Friedland and Rob McEwen again, which has been fantastic. They've been just tremendous shareholders to have, and their support means a lot to us. So it was makes sense, and you got to nothing goes to the moon. You have to fill in shore the timbers up. So we did that, and then now we think we're poised to jump again. That'd be my thinking.
We need to talk about Save Canadian Mining, because how can you have Terry in the vehicle and not talk about that? You want to give us an update?
Yeah, sure. We're actually going to be putting out an email today or tomorrow, just giving everyone an update. Number of developments. Obviously, we hired a law firm to investigate whether or not we felt we could have a practical chance of winning a litigation, and it's not cheap to do that, by the way. It's significant, 6 figures to get that vetted, with a qualified attorney that would, you want to do this thing. And the good news is they basically concurred that there's ample evidence to suggest that we could prosecute. So where we take it from here, that's sort of to come. One of the things that we recognize, or I recognize, is that I've been so bloody busy with power nickel, thanks God, because of the great discovery and what's happened there. I really haven't had the time, to devote to Save Canadian Mining, to push it over the edge, because we're the world is now ripe to this concept. I mean, South Koreans have done an amazing job. They're putting guys, big fines, putting guys in jail for 25 years, and they're not messing around.
Well, that'll clean it up.
That'll clean it up in a hurry, and I think now we see other countries starting to respond. We see Doge about to investigate the SEC in the States. I think that's going to be very positive. Insane. Yeah, because the crazy naked shorting that they've allowed to happen in Canada and the United States has just damaged so many good companies and so many shareholders, so many communities. It's colossal, the damage, and it's hurt capitalism, So I think that now is more than ever, the time is right. And to their credit, I'm critical of the regulators, as you know, but CIRO has come out with a much more responsive proposed piece of legislation, and it needs more due diligence, and the devil's in the details and all these things, because the bad guys will be all over this and be figuring out how they can beat the system, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen again. We need to fix it properly this time, and we need to have some teeth. We need to have people like the South Koreans putting people in jail and massive fines, and we need to have actually some sort of actual follow through that we can verify this is working. Because right now nobody really checks, like failed trades. Like if you think about failed trades, you would think that there'd be some sort of circuit breaker that the stock doesn't get traded, doesn't get paid for or delivered inside of the day, or maybe it's 10 days or some period of time, that it would immediately go to the regulator. The regulator would then follow up on it. Yeah. That's not what happens. You know, you have to wait until the bank that allowed the failed trade to call it a failed trade. Well, that's like asking a fox to guard the chicken house. You know, it's just not going to happen. Right. You know, as much as it should. You know, so self-regulatory systems, I'm fairly, you know, not a fan of. I think if you're going to have regulation, and have the regulator be independent, and you know, I think that would be the best. But you know, we're in this self-regulatory environment at the moment, and we'll see where we go with it. But we need to have some teeth, and so lots of, you know, promise to that, but it'll only happen, you know. And the interesting thing is South Korea shut down short selling, not naked short selling altogether in 5 days. Shut it down in their entire market. And, you know, Ciro, with their nice new proposal that seems to have some hope, you know, subject to a lot more due diligence and to see how it's going to be verified. They're 3 months for a conversation to get feedback, 6 months at least to implement. That's, you know, that whole saying, justice delayed is justice denied. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Rome is burning right now. I mean, despite really, you know, strong, actually commodity market prices, you know, only just recently, like in the last week, has the TSXV broken off the bottom and started to look like it may be on an uptrend. I mean, we should be in a massive bull market right now. We're not. Right. And look, you can look at all sorts of great companies, and even though we've had a great run, I think we're still massively undervalued. But I can look at a bunch of, you know, gold mining stocks I own that, you know, have done the hell of a hard job of finding what I think are mineable resources, and they're still not trading well. They're still down massively, yet gold's up. So still lots to be done there. And I think, so the takeaway that I had was we needed to recruit a new team to push Save Canadian Mining forward so that we could be the vigilant one to make sure that we get the changes we need in the Canadian capital markets. And whether it becomes Save Canadian Mining or Save Canadian Markets, you know, we'll see where that evolves.
But kind of just slid that in there.
Yeah, but you know, I've recruited a really great figure, a national political figure. I won't disclose him at the moment, but you know, it's going to be a really great boon for the movement, and he's got a great team that he's ready to come into it. We need to raise him some capital to start with, so we're going to raise him $250,000 day one, and then ultimately another million and change after that. Power Nickel's going to lead the charge, writing a check for $25,000 to start the thing, and we're going to reach out to a bunch of our Save Canadian Mining peers and really, you know, say to the entire industry, listen, we need to get going in this. This is nothing more important for us right now as an industry than getting transparent capital markets back. If we get that back, we're all going to win. Yeah. Massively. You know, there's going to be like 10 and 100 baggers in this space, and lots of them, and God knows our shareholders deserve it. Yeah. So you know, we're going to be basically delivering that message to the audience here in the next day or so on Save Canadian Mining, and then we'll hope to quickly color that amount, and then announce our new leadership team, and also I'll be there still as like chairman of it, but I won't be the force because I just can't spend the time. You know, I've got my first job is to my shareholders. That's right. You know, so I have to take care of that. So that's my focus. But I do not want to give up on this. We are making progress, but it won't happen unless we be very vigilant and focus on it. But I think the good news is maybe worst case we're 9 months away from radical changes that will transform our capital markets. And you know, I think you know, in my mind, in terms of what I've said to my friends and, you know, other investors I talk to, I'm saying you should be finding the good companies you like and mining now and buying them, because it's as low as it's going to be, in my view, barring some black swan events that we don't know. And it's a hell of a time to be putting your wish list together and averaging in and doing the practical things one does when one invests. And I think it's a sensational time to be looking at mining overall.
That's a great clip right there. That's a great clip for Ashley, who's probably watching this. Also, not just on the Power Nickel thing, like you have a lot of your own wealth in there too, right? You got your own family's money in there.
Yeah, so we pushed it. We pushed it all in. You know, we just felt that, you know, the discovery was not being well understood, yet we understood it. You know, and we told people remember last February, it was funny, everyone was talking about how well we're doing now, and I said, well, yeah, but a year ago last February, we couldn't give it away.
Yeah.
Despite me going on, shows like this, pounding the table, saying, hey, have you seen these drill results? We've told you this is a material development.
Yeah.
Like, for God's sakes, buy. Basically.
Yeah. They're just a little jaded for sure.
Yeah, I know, I get that. But I told them, and I think some did and some didn't. But I said, if you couldn't stomach buying Power Nickel, buy a good mining fund. Buy Palace Capital, buy BT Global, buy McKinsey, buy 1832. There's a number of great mining funds out there. They're going to do really well, So it's like, if you can't, don't have the time to troubleshoot individual stocks, don't miss the sector.
Yeah,
sector's going to outperform them.
Yeah.
And I think the individuals stocks haven't done well, generally speaking, but they're going to do very well, I think.
So there is one more way that you can, get Save Canadian Mining in to make more change, which is PDAC. Right? Like PDAC, Save Canadian Mining, seems like those two things go hand in hand. And you've been a little critical of PDAC over the years. And you're, of course, someone who doesn't just complain, right? You like to be solution oriented. So I'll let you take it from there.
So I'm running for the board of PDAC. So I'd ask any PDAC members that are out there to support my candidacy for the board, and to support the candidacy of Keith Spence, who's another veteran mining figure, well-known former past PDAC member, and he's also been a big supporter of Save Canadian Mining. So there's other people running for the board, and honestly, I'd hope to actually talk to them and see what their views are on the capital markets and on Save Canadian Mining's positions, and they may well be supporters too. I've been so flat out, I haven't had a chance.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But yeah, I think it's important that we bring this message to the board, because PDAC, with its national leadership position, should have done more, and did not, for whatever reason. And we've tried in the past to, get them going, and it just never worked. So we just felt that the board way is the way to go forward, is to bring the message to the board. The board actually instructs the management team how they should behave, and that's how it has to happen. So I think that that's what we need, and it's we're not going to mince our words. We believe we can and should do better. We need capital market transparency. We don't have it, and no amount of bureaucrats are going to be in Buffalo me on that one. So we just need to make some changes here if we want to get to where we need to get as an industry, for our society, for our shareholders. I mean, man, we should be killing it in mining right now.
Yeah. Well, I do agree with you on pretty much everything you've said, and I'd say thank you for your time and your effort. A lot of people talk about issues, but they don't get nearly as involved as you have in starting Save Canadian Mining, and I look forward to all those announcements. I look forward to what's going to come with Power Nickel. That's just exciting to be a shareholder, because you almost wake up, 2-3 times a week with some news. I always see something in my email that's like, oh, that's not just a piece of fluff,
Yeah. I mean, the drilling's been phenomenal, and we're now that we're funded, we'll be, should be drilling news every 3 or 4 weeks, which is great. And this thing is, the line zone is, I mean, it's interesting as you learn about the thing, and we're going to get into it in the show, but this is an orthomagmatic discovery, and the last one like this was 18 years ago in Finland, called Sakatti, Anglo-American's discovery, and and then before that, Voisey's Bay.
Right.
So these things tend to be giant to supergiant. So that's why we're so excited. It's been just an absolute blessing. The drill bet's been super cooperative, and God's sort of put it out there for us, and we've been, we've done the right things, but we got, no question, we got lucky too.
I guess I'd leave it where Friedland was a big part of Voisey's Bay, and he's a big part of Power Nickel.
He's a smart guy, and he doesn't suffer fools, and he's obviously done an amazing job. Ivanhoe is my favorite big cap mining stock. I think it's going to be the biggest mining company in the world, and I think that's his ambition, and I think he's going to achieve it. He's done some great things there, and I think they're going to go from growth to growth, and he's a sharp investor, just like Rob McEwen. Rob was the big early money in Great Bear, so. Rob's often around great discoveries, and he's got a nose for that sort of thing. So it's comforting to have people like that on side. Gina Reinhardt as well. we've got a bunch of, I think, like something like 14 billionaires in the deal. So we've been blessed with really smart, measured investors that see that this is not, we're not trying to trade this for 20%.
Yeah.
They're in this for the big win. So as we all are.
Yeah. Well, let's leave it there. And again, please join go in the description and sign up for the webinar with Ashley West and Terry. Terry, thank you very much.
All right, good stuff. Always fun and driving the new vehicle. Looking forward to more conversations throughout the year.
The Power Nickel Cybertruck. All right.
Power Metallic.
Power Metallic. I just knew okay, I can't say that name yet, but yes, Power Metallic.
Okay.
Power
Cheers.
Metallic.
Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.